powerful meditation. Actually, it was a side of me that is like, let's just stay here. Nothing else has to be said. And it brought me to a memory years ago in the 90s where I'm studying to become a licensed unity teacher. And I had this friend who was academic in religion, invited me to some conference in Philadelphia on world religions. And he happened to be a Quaker. And there was a Quaker church across the street from where I was staying. And I said, oh, I would love to go and see what a Quaker service is like. And I'm going there, and I'm seeing that they're, people are getting ready to start the service, and they're in silence. And I go, oh, this seems so much like unity. But time went on, and no one was coming out, and the whole time was silence. People would just stand up and just say whatever was coming to them. And that made me realize, yes, at the end of the day, everything is being revealed through silence. God is in silence. And that's the foundation of our movement. And when we're going through change, times of silence are more important than ever. Because if we stay too much out there, it's not going to be a happy ride. And we know that change and uncertainty are the biggest triggers that human beings have. Even if that change could be something better, our default tends to be that no, I'd rather have what I have now, right? It's just thinking that what I have is so much better. That tends to be and it's really an ego-driven position. Many of us have to say that change and uncertainty can describe really what the country and the world is going through more than ever. I mean, there's always change, but we feel it more. And I am really amazed at the level of information we are all exposed to constantly. It's like all over, right? And even affecting even the most discerning minds, if we don't really measure and balance the time we spend watching the news, it could be really overwhelming. And I must say that, especially after a couple of months this year, I started finding myself spending more than usual time watching the news, and as a result, feeling anxious to a new level and asking myself, what is really going on? And telling myself, Anna, like how we start every service, there's only one presence, one power active in this universe and in your life, God the good. Why are you anxious? What part of you is still in denial or in ignorance of that truth? And I must say that even though many of us might be concerned with what is happening, there's a lot of people who are really pleased. And we are all coexisting in the same space. And to the point, and today I'm not trying to make a political lesson. However, I must say that when I had this inspiration for today's talk, it was something that I was really writing for me. And then I just thought, okay, you happen to be sitting there, but this one's for me, right? Thank you for being here, by the way. But going back to the idea that some people are really concerned, some people are really pleased, and we're all both coexisting. During that period that I'm having this inspiration, I had a friend who called me and said that a friend of hers prayed every night that the new president will die. And I had another friend who told me that his mother-in-law slept better at night knowing that that president was in power. And something precious is being revealed about both, and it's what? That they're both placing the same amount of security in something external, right? If this is the way I think it should be, then I'm safe. If this is not the way I think it should be, then I'm not safe. So going back to my anxiety and questioning what part of me it's still not there. And we know that when fear arises somehow in us, there's a big message being sent to us. They're telling there is some sort of conditioning that has to be rewired. For anything that comes from fear, it's ego-based. And spirit, on the other hand, will only send messages of love, hope, harmony, and awareness. So it means that this ego mind, there's some programming there that I might not have all the awareness of, still sitting there. So of course, in meditation, something precious was revealed to me, and it was like, okay, you have been, especially the last 15 years of my life, in an intense spiritual process, let's say of liberation, and that something else it's meant to be, you're meant to be liberated from. And I started doing and I'm not going to tell you the story of my life, but I would just mention how some of that really brought me to a deeper awareness of the one presence and one power, to lead me to the place where, okay, what is it still has to be let go of that is not truth, and that you have held in your subconscious, where most of our belief systems are at. So you know that after 23 years of being in the island, I was happy to see some of our friends from Puerto Rico here today. It was my time, after being very involved in the family business, to let God go of, to find myself in a situation where I got really sick, and this is what brought me to the Triangle area. And through that process, I really had to understand that the source of my stability, especially financial stability, was not family related, but God related. And losing what I lost at that moment really, and being able to put that truth of one presence and that power to test, brought me to a place of realization that God is really, truly my only source of everything, including money. Then after 26 years of relationship, marriage of 21 years, my marriage was culminated in 2018. And I find myself in a moment where most of my kids are leaving off for college, and all of a sudden I find myself on my own. To then, through that loss, realizing really spirit is the source of my love. And then after 10 years of being a happy associate minister at Unity of the Triangle, and finding a community that loved me and that I loved, I was sent to Miami, and that really marked a transition moment in my life, because after not staying in Miami for long and spending a year in the island and coming back and realizing that it was mine to do, to start the bilingual ministry that Osvaldo and I had started, And that process of loss of my community or my life in North Carolina, the way it had been, and walking on faith and saying, I'm not going to depend on a minister's salary, but go on my own and trust that Spirit will support us, really brought me to the awareness that the source of true abundance is when you're able to acknowledge the voice of God and act accordingly and bring your particular gift to the world. So when my inner dialogue for so many years was like, I have to be in the family business to be financially stable, or to be in a marriage to be happy and fulfilled and loved, or be in a church job to be able to serve spiritually and still make a living, shifted. And the voice of the ego, each of these big changes kept being, what about me? The victim, why? And now I see that Spirit knew better. Spirit always knows better. And even though each change felt like the end of the world, a highest good having to do with my relationship with Spirit was unfolding. So I have a quote from Jesus, because has it ever happened that you might read some scripture and you go, yeah, but then you go through something and you quite understand what it's meant there. So I have this quote from Jesus on Matthew 15, 16, 25, 26, that talks about how there are times that you have to lose in order to gain. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good would it be for someone to gain the whole world and yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? So while my codependency, I must say, about being in a business, being in a marriage relationship, or in a church has disappeared, there was something else that had blindsided me. And through this process, I realized that I had an inner sense of security based on having the perception that the U.S. government is a very stable government, and that while I am operating under that government, and like I was told so many times as a Puerto Rican, my father, who was a big believer in the American democracy, while you are under the American flag, you are safe. And that was like, I had to go back to, wow, I grew up with that belief. My father was from Spain, and he spent 5 years of his early childhood during the Civil War. And he came back to the island through New York, and he said he had been starving, and he goes into a restaurant to see some uncle in New York, and they have a buffet for all you can eat for $1. And he said, what country is this? And when the nation celebrated 200 years, I was 11 years old, and my father had to bring the whole family and celebrate that. And that brought me to, wow, okay, even though there's a side of me that still gives something else the power of my well-being. Jesus used to say, in the world you will find tribulation, but I have overcome the world. And the world will always be changing. Doesn't matter. It always has, and it always will. And if we don't detach from that, and this meditation was so proper, to just let whatever and come back to the center, we are not going to really ever feel safe. But then, for those of you who are sensitive souls, an empath, You go like, yeah, but what about the collective? And you ask, and I ask, what is my responsibility as a conscious citizen? I can't just bury my head in the sand. And what I heard, and I have some quotes from my beloved Ram Dass, those who seek only God could forget humanity. What about politics, economics, and social responsibility? Are you truly playing the part of your dance? And this is why I love God so much, and I know how I'm always connecting and being guided. So imagine during this period, in my YouTube feed, this talk from Ramdas pops up 1976. And the title of the talk, 1975, was called On the Pull to God. And I sort of like paraphrase his talk. He says, it's about playing in the formless and then returning to form. As we awaken, it's easy to lose sight of humanity, to be captivated by spiritual beauty while ignoring the suffering below. Do we abandon the world for God? Do we lose God in the world? True wisdom is keeping both in view. If we escape only to God, we forget our role in the dance of life. If we stay only in the world, we remain trapped in illusion. As our compassion grows, an urgency to help those who suffer arises. But that desire often comes with attachment, guilt for having received something special, or identification with their suffering. When motivated by attachment, our help does not truly liberate others. He says, most who wants to aid in the world, our actions are meaningless if driven by a sense of separation, sustaining the illusion of division and extending suffering. Recognizing this does not mean withdrawing from service. It means transforming it. Serve not from guilt or attachment, but as path to awakening. Serve humanity as an exercise and a vehicle for becoming enlightened. It's really beautiful. During the convention, I had the honor of having lunch with Reverend Jim Rosemurgy, who's one of my favorite writers and ministers of unity. And we're talking about it, and he says it's really all about spiritually awakening. And so many people who are really in tune know that this is a moment of planetary ascension, and that a lot of things have to be shaken from the world they have been, so we're forced to go deeper internally. So this is why I had the quote from Ram Dass that you showed, that ultimately the only thing that frees another human being is being a free being. And there's another quote from Ramakrishna that says, if you are in quicksand, you cannot free another of quicksand. Think about it. And that's why I'm like, you can go out and protest or just bring or do your action, but where is it coming from? Is it coming from fear, or is it really spirit-led? So then the message was, okay, got it. I'm being called to a higher level of spiritual mastery. And I believe that we all are. That's why, think about it, more than ever, we are being called to be the light of this world. I want you to really take that in, really. If I can't stay myself anchoring principle and live from there, that's my greatest contribution. There's a quote from Amanda Gorman that says, "For there is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. So that's the call. And I have some beautiful quotes, and this last one from Mary Ann that says, "Who we choose to be will determine our capacity to help transform what is happening." Sit with that for a moment. Who are you choosing to be? Our part is not really to cry over or get upset or judge others. I found myself judging a lot. Our role is not even to change the world. We can't save the world. We cannot do, and I love this expression, all the good the world needs. We can't. Even if we wanted to be out there in the Middle East and be and make and save everybody from that, we just can't. However, the world needs all the good that we can do. And that is very personal. What is mine to do? And the very first thing that has to be the answer is that my first responsibility is to really be and be anchored in beingness and use silence. And then from there, follow the call and says, yes, this is spirit-led. Out of everything that is happening or that I could choose to offer, this is what it's being offered that I may do. And more, when I ask myself that question, the answer that always keeps coming back is to keep doing the work you're doing within unity. Because unity is really a gift to this world. It's really the expression of spiritual truth from a practical unity, oneness perspective that the world needs more and more. So that's been my answer. But like Dalai Lama says, whatever your plan may be, what do you think how's going to end that? Whatever your plan be, no plan will work unless we meditate. So then I ask, what if this is all about a revolution of prayer? It's like more and more people coming together to meditate, to hold silence, to really do it. You know, it's like, see unity churches or churches filled with people who are aware that there's power in God when we come together and we do silence together. So I want to plant that seed just as Osvaldo did today. How, and I love that meditation, Osvaldo, congratulations, that he sends from the mind of God, we plant the seeds into the collective. So keep working on yourself. Keep seeing your reactions and your triggers as teachers, giving you information. Okay, if this is triggering me, what is really telling me? Dig deeper, then heal. And you go sometimes, well, I don't know how. Spirit will support you. That's the beautiful thing. And the more of us who take that route, the more we will just shift the collective. And that is ours to do. So I hope that not only this resonates with you, but that you're inspired to really be faithful to that space of silence, meditation, prayer, and spirit-led action. We'd love to close this talk with a short prayer. We're going to come back to silence for a moment. Charles Fillmore used to say that all manifestation starts in silence. So what if perhaps we make silence our aim? Imagine all of humanity as one in silence, in oneness, in unity, receiving from divine mind and co-creating the beautiful world that God pretended for its creation. And at this very moment in the history of humanity and your own, we are all being summoned to go deeper, to be more present, to be willing to do the work, and to let that light of the Christ be the light that transforms you and the world. And that is ours to do. And for this realization, and each person here, we say, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
Hi, it's Reverend Victoria here. I'm at Unity Center of Peace with our house band, Bright Matter.
Hello.
Yeah, and if this video has inspired you or empowered you or opened your heart, opened your consciousness, or even just given you hope, we ask that you support what we're doing here by making a donation today, going to unitychapelhill.org or clicking the link below. And we thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.